Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to House in the Car Super Series Tuesday. This series is entitled Real Estate Investing 101, and today is our last and final episode of the series, and we will be talking about flipping for the bag. And we're talking about flipping houses for the bag, and we're talking about that money bag. So, guys, if you're tuning in right now, my name is Stephanie Milburn, and I'm joined by my co host, Miss Erica Rawls.
Hey, Stephanie.
Hey, Erica. How's it going over there in PA? It looks pretty chilly.
Yeah, it is cold. It's trying to snow. I'm not liking that at all.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't get a lot of snow here in Houston. I won't say not in Texas, but in Houston, we don't get a lot of snow
Yeah,
here.
because I was gonna
So,
say just last year, didn't y'all have a big
what
freeze?
we did have a freeze, and that was earlier this year. So, don't even bring it up. It was pretty traumatic.
It was.
It
Yeah.
was. It was really, yeah, we were not prepared. Houston is not prepared for those types of freezing temperatures. So, yeah, no, don't bring that over here, Erica.
I will not.
Please and thank you.
Yes.
So, today we are in our last and final episode, and this series has really been amazing. So, this
It
Real Estate
has.
101 has really been very informative, and we've had some really dynamic guests on the show. So, thank you to everyone who has participated in our real estate investing series. So, thank you guys. And today we'll be talking about flipping houses. So this is another way for you guys to invest in real estate. And a lot of people are always asking, how can I get a good deal on a property? I want to flip this house, but they have absolutely no knowledge of flipping houses. So it's not something that you can just easily get into. You really need to have a plan. You need
Mm-hmm.
to have a team, and you have to really have good relationships with people in the industry.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would agree with that. So, I mean, back to the people that were on from the last couple shows that we had, we were really fortunate and would encourage anyone to go back and listen to them because they weren't just small. When I say small people, they weren't people just entering into the industry. They were people that are successful and are where you may want to be. Like for example, I think I'm still blown away by Benita being owning her own bank, which is amazing, right? And then we had Chris last
Mhm.
week where he talked about buying the block. So us closing it out with flipping homes. That's where you want to start. So this is like the beginning stages before you get to buying the block. So yeah, I'm excited about just diving into this a little bit more. So what are some of the things that you look for, or should we identify when someone's looking to flip homes? Like, what are some of the things that we think would be valuable to our listeners?
Well, some of the things I think, okay, first, like I said, starting off, you need to have a plan.
Yeah.
So when you're starting out, you want to know what your budget is going to be because just the construction piece and renovation piece alone, doing repairs, you can really blow your budget if you're not mindful of where you need to be, how much something is going to cost. So setting your budget early, but doing your research. So you have to do some research on what some of these um, repairs may cost, and so you don't want someone to overcharge you.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to start out first by doing some research on some of the repairs that you think may need to be done in the property. So something may just be cosmetic, something may be foundation wise. You may really need to get underneath the house to see what's going on. It just depends, but you want to have knowledge of what these things may cost you. So do your research first, then you want to set your budget. So
Right.
set your budget, and then you want to set a budget for how much you're going to spend on a property, how much you're going to spend on the renovation. That way you will know how much your profit is going to be once it is sold. So after the repair value, you'll know how much you'll be receiving in profit and if there was a good return on your investment.
Yeah. 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 I would agree with that. And I think location is key. I don't know
Hmm.
if we missed that or not, but location is definitely key. So one of the wisest things I've heard someone speak to me was saying, you know what, find where you want to be. Like, where do you want to invest your dollars? Where do you really want to focus? And just let that be your territory. Be a master of that territory before branching out into other territories. So, um, research, doing your due diligence before actually pulling the trigger is what I would highly recommend. What do they say?
Absolutely.
They say measure twice and cut once. Is
Go
that what they
once,
say?
yes. I absolutely and totally agree with you, Erica, because it you can really get caught up and lose a lot of money and, have some bad relationships with people in the industry because, you're not doing something properly, or this home, you know what I'm saying? If you're not
Yeah.
doing your due diligence and if you're not using the right contractors and just
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature. So you just want to be really, really, vigilant in your process, because this is something that you're investing in and something that, it's going to be sold to a consumer. So you don't want to put out, for lack of better words, a crappy, home, in the process of, if you're not doing your research, if you're not vetting the people that you're working with. So you just want to make sure that you definitely do your research first, and then you can get into the process. And then, then when you move on to having those funds available. So we've talked about several different ways for you guys to finance your project. So if you've tuned into any of our other shows, we definitely have touched on lots of ways for you guys to finance your renovation projects for or any type of investment project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So check those out. That was one of the first ones that we went over, but it kept coming up in each one of our episodes because
Hmm.
it's so important.
Hmm.
Capacity or collateral, like how are you actually going to be purchasing, your home? So one of the best ways that I'm finding is finding that seller possibly for holding seller financing. But when it comes to flipping houses, it doesn't really make sense to do that. So maybe even crowdfunding would even be like the better resource. If you can't do it on your own, possibly get others that you trust in order to put your funds together, whether it's an established entity or not, or if it's just, three people or four people that come up with an agreement that say, hey, we're going to split this four ways, the profit, by putting your money in, that might be the best option for you to get started. And then once you build up your capital, your reserves, I should say, then possibly look at venturing off on your own if that's something that you choose to do.
Exactly. And a lot of times people will look at some of these shows that are on HGTV, and they may get the wrong idea about, what this renovation project will cost and where the money is coming from. One of my favorite shows would be like the Love It or List It. So you
Yes.
will see Hillary saying, oh, I need this amount of money to renovate this property to turn it into this, but they're not realizing that most of these homeowners have done a refinance on their house so that they can pull the cash out or get some type of line of credit for this renovation. So that's another way, guys. If you want to start a flip project and you want to pull some equity out of your own house that you own currently, you may be able to pull enough funds out to begin your project of flipping houses. But it's not always what you see on TV. So don't think that, oh, these people, they just
Yeah.
have 80 to 100,000 just sitting under their mattress, and they're like, oh, they just up and decide I want to renovate my house today. So that's not really how it works, although it looks like that on TV.
Right, right. And they sell salamanders. That's their profession. Yeah. Like,
Right, and they have no job.
yeah, right, right. So yeah, that's good stuff. That is good. I don't know who's all out there, but thank you for watching. But if you could do me a favor, just sprinkle this across your timeline because we're talking about real estate 101, how to flip to get the bag to earn a big profit on your investment. So Stephanie, this is really good stuff. So what else you got for us? What else? What other research did you do for us?
I think another thing to do also is knowing the research on knowing the market. So right now,
Yes, being an
and
expert.
usually across the board, it's a seller's market. So it is a good time to acquire a property, renovate it, and flip it, because the home prices are in favor for those who are selling. So right now it's a really good time. So knowing the market too. So you want to know the market. So especially someone who's just starting out, you don't want to do a flip and you're coming off so much money and then you're really not going to see a profit. Like if it's not a seller's market, I'm not saying that you won't make any money,
Yeah.
but you do have, more opportunity to maximize on your profit during a time like this, because just a friend of mine recently just did a renovation project and in a neighborhood that he just knew that he would not get 200,000, but he absolutely got 200,000 on a property that he paid. I want to say maybe 110
Oh
for,
wow.
and did the, yeah, and did the renovations and was able to get it sold for 200,000. So this is the type of things that you want to be aware of when you're starting your projects. Knowing your market is key. So if you
Mm-hmm.
know your market and you know you have the potential to actually maximize your profit, then I would say go ahead and start now.
Yeah, yeah. And then someone may say, okay, so what exactly should I know about my market? Like you said, what's the time on market? What's the average sale price for that home? So if you're buying it at 100,000, you're selling it for 220. That renovation cost in between there, you want to make sure you're profitable, right? So you don't want to spend more than what you're actually putting into it,
Absolutely.
or what you're getting out of it. So that's key. Yeah. So your time frame to sell, the time frame to rehab, and then also average sale price, price per square foot, and those are like some of the bigger things that they should be looking at, becoming that expert. So
And of course, you can get that information from your trusted real estate agent. So if you're working, don't go into this. I want to flip a house alone without having a knowledgeable real estate agent on your team. So when I
right.
started out, I was talking about having your team together. So you most definitely want to have a real estate agent that's knowledgeable of the area, that's knowledgeable of the market, that's knowledgeable of the after repair value of the property that you're interested in. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely have a real estate agent on your team.
Yeah. Or get your own license, because there's not a lot of people of color that have their real estate license. So I'm encouraging you to get your real estate. Maybe in the state of Texas, I shouldn't
I
say
was
that
gonna
because
say,
y'all got like 2,000.
is that just in PA? I mean, I don't know how
Yeah, let
many.
me
I
speak
don't know
for
how many
yeah from
people of
our
color.
region. Yes,
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people of color, but currently there's about
y'all have a gazillion.
60,000. Yeah, real estate agents in my area. So
Yeah, yeah. So, well, yeah, we could. We have a lot to be desired in our area. So, if real estate is something that really interests you, yes, get in touch with an expert. And then once you start knowing this is something that you really want to do, maybe invest getting into the profession itself by getting your real estate license to defer some of those costs. So, I might get thrown off this platform, but yeah, you,
no,
yeah,
not at all. Not at
that
all.
might be the
Not
best
at all.
avenue.
Because
That's what I would
at
say.
the end of the day, yeah, at the end of the day, we're here to help. And if by helping someone to save money on their
Yes,
project by
that's exactly
becoming a
right.
licensed professional, absolutely. So the more the merrier, especially like Erica said, agents of color, please, go out there and, do your due diligence and study the business and
Mm-hmm.
become your own agent.
Mm-hmm.
It will definitely save you some money. So that's one thing I have heard. Some of the investors, they want to see how they can get around that paying the commission piece, because of course you have to pay to list the house and then you have to pay to sell the house. So, you know, once the home is purchased by the buyer, the seller is paying for both sides of the commission. So, of course, when you're an investor, you absolutely want to maximize your profit. So, I have known a lot of them to get their own license so they can avoid that fee.
Right. Yeah. 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 But then make sure that you include marketing costs, because just because you get rid of a
Hmm.
professional realtor doesn't mean you're not going to incur your own expense.
Right.
Yeah, for
Right. And
sure.
and you definitely want to market. And this is the age of, social media. So a lot of social media marketing is free. So, those of you who are wanting to, save some money, you can also do some free marketing via social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of times, if you market it properly, you can sell it before it's even you're finished with the rehabs,
Exactly.
ideally. So.
Exactly. Before it even hits the market,
Mm-hmm.
you can get that property sold. So that is something good, to do, especially when you have so many different outlets, so many different social media outlets out there that will allow you to post about whatever it is that you're doing, and it is free to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff,
So
Stephanie.
whereas, being a real estate agent, if you are a part of the National Association of Realtors, you are able to post your property on the multiple listing service. So you can post on MLS, and that way it gets more eyes on it. But again, if you're not a licensed agent, you can have one to post it, that way people can see it. You can upload your listing to the MLS and have more eyes on it. So that's another way to get some marketing. But of course, that is a licensed professional. So have that person on your team. If you're not that person, then you want to have that person on your team.
Right. Yeah. So, as far as like picking the a property, I've always went by the rule of thumb that you want to buy like the worst property in the nicest neighborhood, or in the worst property on the block. How about that? Because it doesn't have to be the nicest neighborhood, but the worst property on the block that you're interested in, because that way you know you're going to get the best return on your investment. Is how I see it.
That could be scary to people, though. If they're looking at it and it's the worst one on the block, it could be very overwhelming and scary because it may just look like a bunch of dollar signs. And I'm not saying the
That's
dollar signs
right.
that are going to be in your pocket, it could look like dollar signs that are coming out of your pocket. So,
Right.
uh, but again, when you doing your research and you have those professionals on your team, and they're telling you, okay, you
There
know
you
what,
go.
this is going to cost this amount, this is going to cost that amount, and you have your budget, then you won't feel so overwhelmed. You won't feel like, oh my God, I'm going to spend so much money and I'm not going to get it back. That is not the case when you're working with an excellent team of professionals. So make sure that you're vetting out those people, because that could be really daunting and it could be scary, because if it's, especially if you're someone new to that, you know, arena, and you're like, oh, I want to flip a house, and I'm like, it's the ugliest house on the block, but it can have good potential, but I'm so scared to put this money into it. Don't be scared. Of course, like the saying goes, you gotta spend money to make money.
Right. But there's levels to the ugliness, though, Stephanie. There's levels. So you have houses that have deferred maintenance, right? And you put a couple dollars into it, and you possibly can get some return on your investment. But it's not going to be as high as the one that has like, okay, there's major repairs. Maybe the HVAC system is completely gone, so you have to replace that. Then you have those that are just a shell of a home. I don't recommend that you go to a house that's a shell of a home if this is your first investment. So you want to meet somewhere in the middle when you start out. So when I say ugly, ugly compared to the rest of the homes, but not too ugly where you're just like in over your head, as like Stephanie's saying. Yeah, for
I agree.
sure.
But sometimes the ugly is not a bad thing,
It's
because if
not.
something is just
Those are the
cosmetic,
gems.
yeah, if
Yes.
it's just cosmetic, it can be easily fixed. And those are the things that are not as expensive as something when you have to dive deeper into the root of what's going on with the property. So like I said, if you're looking at something and it just looks ugly and you can change that, that's probably one of the easiest projects that you can do. So just and really it may just need to be updated. So bring it into 2021. Of course,
Right.
we know what, in our market, like the biggest thing out here is like the grays and the whites and the, these cool colors. So I know years ago it was all about the warms, and people were doing the beige and the brown, but right now it's the grays and the whites.
Right.
So it's a real simple fix. I mean, sometimes, just a nice, good paint job, changing out some countertops, changing the cabinets. Of course, people really focus on kitchens, floorings, and the bathrooms, and especially the primary bathroom. So just focus on those things, and you can definitely get a good return on your investment.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, Erica, have you done a flip before?
I have dabbled in it. So it's funny that you said that, because one of the things I want to do is to get back into it more aggressively. Um, I did a lot of dumb things when I got into investing, so I'm a little wiser now. So the due diligence is, when I was saying that, I was really speaking to myself or people that are like me. Yeah. So that's huge. So, however, I'm looking to do it at a larger scale. So I'm excited about that process. After talking to so many great panelists that we had this week, it really helped me get my footing as to in what direction I want to take. Yeah.
I agree. I also want to, get more into it. I have been a party to some flips before, but not really just done any, for myself. And I definitely want to get into that. I'm not ready to do the full on development thing. I know that's
Mm.
where you're headed, but I
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to get into flipping some properties. I love the renovation part of it. I
Isn't that
really really
nice?
do. So I like taking something and turning it into something beautiful. So something that's not so pretty, I love to turn it
Yeah.
into something that's really pretty. So I love that part of it. So and of course to do that, have fun with it and make some money at the same time, it's a win-win. It's
It is a
definitely a
win-win.
win-win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, so I don't know if we have any questions. I mean, it's not a lot, really to talk about this whole process because we have covered so much of it in the previous shows, but just the timing of this would be really good. So if someone is interested in doing a flip, this is the time. This is really
Yeah.
the time. So I would say, I mean, not only for the financing piece, because interest rates are still low. So if you're looking to finance your project, you can still get a pretty decent interest rate if you're doing hard money loans. There's still good rates out there. So this is actually a really good time to invest into doing any type of project. So if you're doing a flip, if you're a first time buyer, if you're wanting to start in the development sector, it's just a really good time because the funding is available for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. And, I had time to think about what our last guest had spoken about. When you said first time home buyers, it reminded me about how, he was excited about sharing or influencing people to buy multi units
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
instead of buying their first house because then they
Yeah.
start getting a profit from it. So, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and you know what? I've just recently read something about that too. Instead of purchasing, a home that you're going to own or occupy, you can make your first purchase something that you're going to invest and make some money off of, and it'll put you in a position to where you're able to maybe even purchase your first home that you're going to live in
Right.
cash.
Right.
So it definitely elevates your level of your purchasing power.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely elevates your purchasing power. So that's something to think about, guys. So if you have not owned your own home and you're thinking about buying a house, there's different avenues for you to take, and I will not discourage anyone from becoming a first-time buyer, whether you're doing it to be an owner occupant or you're doing it to be an investor and make some money off of it. So whether you're doing that, either way, it's just imperative that you own your own land.
Mm-hmm.
Own your own land, own your own property, and you can pass that down to your family. So that's another way for you guys. We're always talking about building wealth. So building wealth, building your legacy, and passing that on to your family, because our culture does not typically have that mindset where we want to purchase land and purchase properties. We get stuck in a renter's mindset, but you definitely want to build that wealth and share that with your family.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
So, Erica, what's you got going on for the holidays?
Holidays, you know what? Rest and relaxation. Yeah, so
Boring.
no, no, it's not. But here's the thing. The key is with my family. So we're going to do things, you know what I mean, the way we would like to do them. Of course, we're going to have fun together. But when I say rest and relaxation, I'm not working. Yeah, not gonna
Ooh.
work. So yeah, we'll see
Okay,
how that
Central
works.
PA.
But
All
that's
right,
the
Central PA. Erica said she is not working. Y'all will not see her out in these streets
that
this
is the
holiday
goal.
season.
Yes, yeah. And you know what? And we're blessed to have a team. So, the business keeps going. We rotate who's going to be on, who's going to be off. So that's exciting. Yeah, that's one of the benefits of
Well,
leverage.
when does your holiday season start? Because I know tomorrow's December
Ooh.
1st. So when does your holiday season start?
Yeah, so mine is going to start probably the week before Christmas. So I have family
Okay,
members that are
okay.
coming in probably the 12th of December. So then I'm going to start getting a little itch because they're going to be home. And then probably the week before Christmas is when it's all going to be, yeah, when it's all going to
Yeah,
be
well,
settled.
that sounds good. Sounds
Hmm.
good. And I'm just kidding about the rest and relaxation. We all need it. So, sometimes people think that this real estate industry is really lax, but no, it can be very
There's really
taxing
feel
on
like
a
no days
person.
off, right? It feels like it.
Yes,
Hmm.
it's no days off. There's no 9 to 5 unless that's what you want to do. So, we have the liberty to set our own hours, but of course, we try to be there for all of our clients no matter what. So, we do have a tendency of overworking ourselves because we want to make sure that we're utilizing those hours of the day because we don't have to be confined to a 9 to 5 time schedule. So, definitely get your rest and relaxation in. And guys, our Super Series Tuesday is going to take a break after today, and we will be back in January. With our next series, and that's going to be something really exciting. So, we always like to bring stuff that is exciting and informative to you. So, we're going to be talking about building your financial house. So, it'll be a series all about your finances. So we don't want to always discuss ways to obtain a property. We
Right.
want to talk about sustaining that property too. So tune in, guys. Thank you, guys. This has been a really, really great series. Thank you so much to my
It
co-host
has.
Erica Rawls. I have enjoyed you for this Super
Likewise.
Series Tuesday. You're an awesome producer, y'all. She's the producer, guys. She's an awesome producer. She's an awesome co-host and great addition to House Then the Car. And guys, we will see you again in January. We hope that you have a wonderful holiday season and be safe and enjoy.
See ya.